Park Saturday. A server approached but he waved them away with minimal gesture. The three of them sat in silence for a moment. Maya's confusion was growing. Grandma, what's going on? Dorothy's eyes filled but she did not cry. Baby, I need you to listen. Really listen. And try not to react until you've heard everything. Maya's expression shifted to concern. Are you sick? Is something wrong? I'm fine. But there's something you need to know. About your mother. About your father. About who you are. Maya looked at Park, reassessing him. You knew my mom? Yes, Park said. His voice was steady. 25 years ago, I knew her. We were involved. Then circumstances forced me to end the relationship. I was told she lost the pregnancy. I was told you didn't exist. The information landed slowly. Maya blinked. What? You have a birthmark, Dorothy said. Left shoulder blade. Crescent shape. I've seen it your whole life. 3 months ago when you asked me about it, I started researching. And I found him. Maya pulled back slightly in her chair. Her mind was working fast, processing impossible information. You're saying you're my father? Biologically, yes, Park said. I had DNA verification completed. There's no doubt. That's insane. You can't just show up and claim to be someone's father based on a birthmark and some DNA test I didn't consent to. The sample was taken from your apartment without your knowledge. I apologize for the invasion, but I needed certainty before this conversation. Maya stood up abruptly. Several diners glanced over. You broke into my apartment? Took my DNA? Who are you? Park remained seated, calm. Sit down, Maya. Please. Why should I? Because you're intelligent enough to want the full truth before you make decisions. Sit down. 5 more minutes. Then you can leave if you want. Maya looked at her grandmother. Dorothy nodded. Slowly, Maya Saturday. Park continued. Your mother was Christine Williams. I cared for her more than was strategically wise. When internal threats to my organization escalated, I was forced to remove her from my life to protect her. I was told she miscarried. I should have verified. I didn't. That failure is mine. What organization? Maya asked. Her voice was tight. I run a business network with roots in Korean organized crime. I am what people call a crime boss. I control operations across California. Gambling, money laundering, shipping. I am not a good man by conventional standards. But I am your biological father. The restaurant noise seemed distant. Maya stared at him. Then at her grandmother. Grandma, did you know this? That he's a criminal? I figured it out, Dorothy said quietly. And I came to him because you were being followed. Because I know what happens to people connected to men like him when the connection becomes known. I came to him to protect you. Maya's hands were shaking now. This is crazy. This is actually crazy. It's true, Park said. And I understand this is traumatic. But you need to understand the situation you're in. Whether you accept me or reject me, whether you want anything to do with me or not, your blood makes you significant in my world. There are people who would use you against me. There are people who would kill you to prevent you from becoming a succession problem. Succession problem? Maya's voice rose. I don't want to be part of any succession. I don't want anything to do with organized crime. I'm studying social work. I volunteer at a homeless shelter. I'm nothing like you. You're exactly like me, Park said. You help people systematically. You identify problems and create solutions. You operate within structures to achieve goals. The only difference is your structure is legal and mine isn't. Maya shook her head. No. This is insane. I'm leaving. She stood again. Park did not stop her. But Dorothy reached across and grabbed her hand. Baby, listen to me. I've kept you safe for 24 years. I've given you everything I could. But I can't protect you from this. Only he can. Please. Just listen to what he's offering. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I don't want protection from criminals. I want my normal life. Your normal life ended the moment I walked into that gala, Dorothy said. I'm sorry. But it's true. Park spoke again, his tone unchanged. I'm offering you a choice. Accept protection. Live under a new identity with security that will keep you safe from every threat. Continue your education. Continue your work. But monitored. Guarded. Controlled. Or refuse and take your chances. I won't force you. But I will tell you that if you refuse, you'll be dead within 6 months. My enemies will find you. They will use you. And when you're no longer useful, they will discard you. Maya pulled her hand from her grandmother's grip. You don't know that. I've been doing this for 22 years. I know exactly that. Silence. Maya stood by the table, tears running down her face, fury and confusion warring in her expression. I need time. You have 48 hours, Park said. After that, I'm implementing protection whether you cooperate or not. Because you're my blood. And I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. Park stood now, meeting her eyes directly. You're a Williams. That's your choice. But you're also a Park. That's genetics. And in my world, genetics determine everything. He placed a business card on the table. Plain white. A phone number. Nothing else. Call that number when you decide. Or don't. But know that from this moment forward, you're being protected. You won't see the team. You won't notice the surveillance. But they're there. And they'll remain there for the rest of your life. Park turned and walked out of the restaurant. Maya watched him go, her mind spinning. She looked at her grandmother. How could you do this to me? Dorothy's face crumpled. I did this for you, baby. Because I love you more than anything. And because I know what men like him do to loose ends. You're not a loose end if you're protected. You're not a target if you're claimed. Maya grabbed her bag and walked out, leaving Dorothy alone at the table. Outside, Maya stood in the parking lot, breathing hard, trying to process reality fracturing around her. She pulled out her phone to call her roommate, then stopped. What would she say? That her dead mother's secret boyfriend was a Korean crime boss? That she had a biological father who ran an organized crime syndicate? That her grandmother had orchestrated this nightmare? A car pulled up. Black sedan. The window rolled down. A Korean man in his 50s looked out at her. Kang. Miss Williams. I'm head of your security detail. I'm not here to intimidate you. I'm here to keep you alive. Whether you accept your father or not, you're under protection now. Get used to seeing my team. We're very good at being invisible, but I wanted to introduce myself so you know we're professionals, not thugs. Maya stared at him. Leave me alone. Can't do that, Kang said calmly. Direct orders from the chairman. Your bloodline. Bloodline is sacred. We don't argue with sacred. I don't want this. Most people don't want the lives they're born into. But we adapt. You'll adapt too. You're smart. You'll figure out how to use the protection to your advantage. The window rolled up. The car drove away. Maya stood alone in the sunlight, her entire understanding of herself disintegrating. She had thought she knew who she was. A girl raised by her grandmother. A student helping people. Someone good. Someone clean. Now she was the daughter of a crime boss. Bloodline royalty in a kingdom built on violence. Protected whether she wanted it or not. A succession problem for men she'd never met. She looked down at her hands. The same hands that had served food at the homeless shelter yesterday. The same hands that wrote papers on community intervention strategies. But different now. Because now she knew whose blood ran through them. Inside the restaurant, Dorothy sat alone, praying that she had made the right choice. Praying that protection was better than ignorance. Praying that her granddaughter would forgive her. And in a car heading back toward Los Angeles, Park Jin-woo sat in silence. He had a daughter who hated him. A daughter who would resist every attempt to bring her into the organization. A daughter who represented everything he had sacrificed to maintain power. But she was his. And in 48 hours, He would implement full protection protocols regardless of her cooperation. Because some things were more important than choice. Blood was one of them. The emergency council reconvened Wednesday night. Same location. Same 5 men. Different information. When Park Jin-woo entered the upstairs room, the tension was surgical. Lee Sung-ho sat with the posture of a man preparing for war. Director Yoon looked troubled. Kim appeared resigned. Kang was unreadable as always. Park took his seat and got straight to the point. DNA confirmation is absolute. Maya Williams is my biological daughter. I've made contact. She's rejected protection and association. Implementation proceeds regardless. Lee spoke immediately. This is a mistake. An untrained, unwilling heir creates more vulnerability than having no heir. Your opinion is noted. It's more than opinion, Chairman. I've spent the last 4 days speaking with captains across our network. They're concerned. Succession has been implied for years. Changing the structure now undermines decades of tradition. Park's expression remained neutral. What tradition would that be, Lee? Because our tradition for over 70 years has been bloodline succession. Not merit succession. Bloodline. You knew this when you joined. You knew this when you rose through ranks. You knew this when you started telling captains you'd be the next chairman. The accusation hung in the air. Lee's jaw tightened. I never claimed succession. I prepared for the possibility if no bloodline existed. But bloodline does exist. So your preparation is irrelevant. Director Yoon interjected carefully. The captain's concerns are legitimate, Chairman. An heir who refuses participation is unprecedented. How do we frame this to maintain organizational stability? Park leaned forward. We frame it as exactly what it is. Blood has been confirmed. The heir is under protection during transition. She will be trained appropriately. She will learn the business. And when I step down, she will assume leadership with full council support. And if she never accepts? Lee pressed. If she spends the next 20 years refusing to participate? Then she's protected for 20 years while I continue leadership. The succession question remains open until she accepts or until a new heir is born. Either way, blood remains the priority. Kim spoke quietly. We need to address the other issue. Someone has been investigating Maya Williams independently. The graduate-student contact was traced. The individual was hired through a proxy company registered in Delaware. We've identified the funding source. He slid a document across the table. Park read it. His expression did not change, but the temperature in the room dropped. You funded surveillance on my daughter, Park said to Lee. Not a question. A statement. Lee did not deny it. I funded investigation into a potential security threat. That's my responsibility as underboss. Due diligence required confirmation that this girl wasn't a plant by rival organizations. And did your investigation confirm that? It confirmed she's genuine. It also confirmed she's a liability. She has no loyalty to the organization. She has no understanding of our world. She represents a weak point that rivals can exploit. Park stood. The other men tensed. You investigated my bloodline without authorization. You approached her under false pretenses. You gathered intelligence on my daughter as if she were an enemy asset. I gathered intelligence on an unverified claim, Lee corrected. At the time, we didn't have DNA confirmation. You had my implicit protection the moment I didn't dismiss Dorothy Williams. That should have been enough. With respect, Chairman, your emotional investment in this situation compromises your judgment. I acted in the organization's best interest. The room went silent. Challenging a chairman's judgment was dangerous territory. Claiming emotional compromise was a direct attack on fitness for leadership. Kang shifted slightly in his chair. His hand moved beneath the table. Kim's eyes tracked the movement. Director Yoon sat very still. Park's voice remained level. You're removed as underboss, effective immediately. You're reassigned to our Tokyo operations. You leave Los Angeles within 72 hours. You do not contact any captains. You do not make any strategic decisions. You oversee legitimate business only. Director Yoon will assume underboss responsibilities until I appoint a permanent replacement. Lee's face flushed. 22 years of work. 22 years of loyalty. Exile with one sentence. You're making a mistake, Lee said. His voice was hard now. The captains won't accept a girl who wants nothing to do with us. They won't follow someone who hasn't proven themselves. The captains will follow Bloodline or they'll join you in Tokyo, Park replied. I've led this organization for 22 years. I've generated over $3 billion in total revenue. I've expanded our operations into 6 states. I've negotiated treaties that have kept us alive when larger organizations collapsed. My leadership is not in question. My bloodline is confirmed. That's the end of discussion. Is it? Lee stood now, matching Park's position. Because I've spoken to people. People who remember when leadership meant strength. People who think bloodline without loyalty is meaningless. People who believe this organization deserves better than an untested girl who'd rather work at a homeless shelter. The threat was barely veiled. Lee had been building support. Testing loyalty. Preparing a move. Kang's hand emerged from beneath the table. Empty. But the message was clear. He was armed. He was ready. He was waiting for Park's signal. Park's expression remained perfectly calm. Lee, you've served well. You've earned wealth and respect. But you've made a critical error. You've confused preparation with entitlement. The organization doesn't belong to the most ambitious. It belongs to blood. And when you move against blood, you move against everything we are. I'm not moving against anything. I'm stating facts. You're attempting a coup. Slowly. Carefully. Through political channels rather than violent ones. But it's still a coup. Lee's hand twitched toward his jacket. Kang was out of his chair instantly, weapon drawn and aimed. Director Yoon moved away from the line of fire. Kim remained seated, watching everything. Don't, Kang said quietly. His gun was steady. Lee froze. His hand was inches from whatever weapon he carried. The room balanced on a moment that could end in blood or exile. Park spoke without raising his voice. You have a choice, Lee. You can accept reassignment to Tokyo. You'll live. You'll manage legitimate operations. You'll be comfortable but removed from power. Or you can reach for that gun. And Kang will put 3 bullets in your chest before you clear leather. Your family will be told you died in a car accident. Your contributions will be honored at a funeral I'll attend personally. And your name will be remembered respectfully. But you'll be dead. Lee's breathing was heavy. His eyes moved from Park to Kang to the gun aimed at his chest. He was calculating odds. Assessing whether the captains he'd spoken to would support a violent move. Wondering if this was survivable. Tokyo, Lee said finally. His hand moved away from his jacket, palms visible. I'll take Tokyo. Smart, Park said. You leave Friday. Kang will arrange transportation. You'll have a generous salary. Respect from the legitimate side of operations. A peaceful retirement if you keep your head down. Lee nodded once. His jaw was tight. His eyes carried murder. But he nodded. Kang lowered his weapon but did not holster it. Lee walked out of the room under armed supervision. The door closed. Park sat back down. Director Yoon exhaled slowly. Kim allowed himself a slight smile. That was closer than it should have been, Director Yoon said. It was necessary, Park replied. Now every captain knows what happens when you move against bloodline. Lee gets exiled, not executed. It's merciful by our standards. But it's final. The captains he spoke to? Kim asked. Identified and being reassigned to less strategic positions. Nothing obvious. No purge. Just quiet moves that reduce their collective power. They'll understand the message. Kang holstered his weapon and sat back down. What about the girl? She still hasn't called. Park checked his watch. 31 hours since the restaurant meeting. 17 hours left in the 48-hour window. She'll call, Park said. Or she won't. Either way, Protection is implemented at hour 48. And if she runs? Director Yoon asked. We'll find her. We always find people. Kim leaned back in his chair. You're gambling a lot on a daughter who doesn't want you. I'm not gambling, Park corrected. I'm implementing the only protocol that makes sense. She's blood. Blood is protected. Everything else is negotiable. The meeting ended. The men dispersed. And in an Uckler apartment 23 miles away, Maya Williams sat on her bed, staring at a white business card with a phone number she hadn't called. She had spent 3 days researching Park Jin-woo. Found articles about his legitimate businesses. Found rumors about his illegitimate ones. Found nothing that contradicted what he'd told her. She had noticed the surveillance. Black sedan outside her building. Same Korean man at the coffee shop 3 days in a row. Another at the library. They weren't hiding. They wanted her to see them. Wanted her to feel the weight of protection whether she accepted it or not. Her roommate had asked why she was being weird. Maya had no answer. How do you explain that your entire identity was a lie? That your grandmother had known about your criminal father and orchestrated a meeting? That you were now royalty in an empire built on activities you'd spent your whole life thinking were evil? Maya looked at her left shoulder blade in the mirror. The crescent mark. She had Googled Korean organized crime bloodline markers. Found nothing. It was too secret. Too internal. But she believed it. Because everything else had been true. She picked up her phone. Stared at the number on the card. 17 hours left. She could run. Take a bus to San Francisco. Disappear into a new city. But the man in the black sedan had said they were very good at being invisible. If they could find her in Los Angeles, they could find her anywhere. She could go to the police. But and say what? That a crime boss claimed to be her father? That she was under protection she didn't want? The police couldn't protect her from men who had survived decades in organized crime. She could accept. Take the protection. Live under their control. Keep studying but with guards watching every move. Become complicit in a world she had spent her life opposing. Or she could fight. Refuse everything. Live her normal life and dare them to interfere. Maya made her decision. She dialed the number. It rang once. This is Park. It's Maya. Her voice was steadier than she felt. I have conditions. I'm listening. I accept protection. But I finish my degree. I continue my volunteer work. I live my life on my terms. You don't try to train me. You don't try to indoctrinate me. You don't expect me to join your organization. I'm your daughter biologically. Nothing else. Silence on the line. Then, agreed. Maya blinked. She had expected argument. That's it. You're under protection because you're blood. What you do with your life is your choice. But the protection is non-negotiable. My team will coordinate with your schedule. You'll notice them less over time. And if you ever change your mind about learning the business, the option remains open. I won't change my mind. Perhaps. We'll see. Maya's hand tightened on the phone. Why do you even want this? You don't know me. I don't want anything to do with you. Why not just let me go? Because you're mine, Park said simply. And I protect what's mine. That's all you need to understand. The line went dead. Maya sat in silence, holding the phone. She had just agreed to live under the protection of a crime syndicate. She had just accepted that her normal life was over. She had just become part of a world she despised. But she was alive. And according to the man she'd just spoken to, she would stay alive as long as his bloodline mattered more than anyone's ambition. It was the strangest guarantee she had ever received. And the only one that would keep her breathing. 3 months later, Maya Williams sat in a coffee shop in Westwood, working on a research paper about community intervention strategies for at-risk youth. 2 tables away, a Korean man in his 30s read a newspaper. He had been there when she arrived. He would leave after she did. She had stopped noticing them as much. The security team. They rotated personnel. Different faces. Same invisible presence. Her life continued. Classes. volunteer work. Friends who knew nothing about her father or her bloodline. She had told her roommate she had a wealthy distant relative who insisted on providing security because of threats in the family business. It was close enough to true. Dorothy called every Sunday. They were still working through the betrayal and the revelation. It was getting easier. Slowly. Maya had not called Park since that first conversation. He had not called her. But every 2 weeks, a statement appeared in her bank account. Tuition paid. Rent covered. A stipend for expenses. She had considered refusing it. But practicality won. If she was going to be protected by criminals, she might as well accept the financial benefits. She told herself it was compensation for losing her privacy. She tried not to think about what it actually was. Legacy. Birthright. Blood money. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She considered ignoring it, then answered. Yes? Maya, this is Cam. Head of security. I remember. There's been a situation. Nothing that affects you directly. But your father asked me to inform you that an internal threat has been resolved. You're safer now than you were yesterday. I don't want details about your internal politics. Understood. But he wanted you to know. He also wanted me to tell you that if you need anything, the number you have reaches him directly. I won't need anything. Noted. Stay safe, Miss Williams. The call ended. Maya returned to her paper. Tried to focus. Failed. She wondered what internal threat meant. She wondered if someone had died. She wondered if her biological father had ordered it. Then she forced herself to stop wondering. Because that was his world. Not hers. Across Los Angeles, in an office overlooking Koreatown, Park Jin-woo stood at his window. Lee's departure had gone smoothly. The captains who had supported him were reassigned. The organization had stabilized. Succession was secured, even if his heir wanted nothing to do with him. Kim entered without knocking. The quarterly reports are ready. Good. Any movement on the girl? She's maintaining her routine. Still volunteering. Still studying. Still refusing to engage with anything related to the organization. As expected. You don't seem bothered by that. Park turned from the window. She's 24. She has time to change her mind. Or not. Either way, she's protected. That's what matters. And if she never accepts, then I've protected someone who carries my blood. There are worse legacies. Kim nodded and left. Park returned to the window, looking out at the city he controlled through networks of loyalty, fear, and strategic violence. Somewhere in that city, his daughter was writing about helping people. Believing in systems and rehabilitation and community support. She was everything he had destroyed in himself to survive. And perhaps that was exactly what bloodline succession was meant to preserve. Not the violence. Not the control. But the possibility that somewhere, in some generation, the blood could choose different. Could choose better. He would never tell her that. Would never burden her with expectations of redemption. But he would watch from a distance. Ensure her safety. Give her the one thing he had never been able to protect in himself. Choice. And if she ever needed him, if her world ever collapsed in ways that required the particular skills he possessed, he would be there. Silent. Efficient. Absolute. Because power was not always about claiming. Sometimes power was knowing when to let go while still holding the line no one else could see. Maya Williams would live her life on her terms. And Park Jin-woo would ensure that no one ever took that choice away from her. Blood protected blood. Even when blood wanted nothing to do with you. Especially then.